as the water comes crashing, breaching the dunes, and I mean just flooding First Street.
I'm guessing water is inside that restaurant right there. And a tree has fallen over because the ground is so saturated here. The Morning Glory Church steeple has completely toppled over.
We've never been through this before. We've never done this before.
I've seen the devastation that a hurricane can leave behind. I've been there with people when they've lost everything. It's my job to be there when people are going through a crisis. It's my job to show what we experienced, what our community went through.
So the storm is gone, or maybe it's not. In fact, in many ways, I think this is the toughest part of the storm. That is the mess that is left, and for some folks, it's the mess of the lives of their homes.
I'll tell you what, one of the smartest things a man ever told me was nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems at first.
So Jessica got to see her home.
Say, Jess, it looks good.
It looks good. How's the roof?
Sometimes you can find blessings in a really hard situation. So I think as a community, we all came together.
This is First Coast News. Hurricane Matthew after the storm.
Hurricane Matthew has passed, and now it is time to rebuild. But tonight, it's challenging. Maybe you're like thousands of folks here on our First Coast. Your power's off, you want it back on, and you want it back on soon. Good evening, and thank you for being with us. I'm Heather Crawford.
And I'm Anthony Austin. Many of you I know spent the day taking a look at the damage to your home after wondering when would you be able to return. An estimated $2 billion of damage left behind by Hurricane Matthew in just St. Johns County alone.
Now, a part of the Jacksonville Beach Pier is gone tonight. Hundreds in St. Augustine are faced with flooded homes. Docks are submerged underwater in Flagler County. We continue to be first for you as our community continues to pick up the pieces.
And we have team coverage for you tonight. We begin with Brittany Dion, who's taking a look at the damage in St. Augustine.
Just like the rest of the First Coast, St. Augustine is putting the pieces back together. I'm on a very busy intersection here on North Ponce de Leon and West Castillo Drive. You can see the traffic light is out here. That's the case on several points here in St. Augustine. And as you can see right across the way, across the street here, crews are working overtime trying to get the traffic lights back on and operating properly. Now, power outages are the issue here in St. Augustine tonight. More than 28,000 people are still without power, so they are working frantically to get that power started again. And as you can see, we have St. Augustine PD on most corners here in this area, patrolling, making sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. Now, we've been hearing from city officials. They tell us that 90% of the roads here in St. Augustine are passable, but they still want people to be careful when you're out on the roadways. We have been seeing a lot of people out and about tonight. The people that we have been speaking with, the overall feeling is of gratitude. Take a listen.
I just pray for people and their property and everybody gets their family back together again. Peace of mind is a lot. And as I said, I'm very grateful to be alive.
There's a plan, there's a reason for everything, and it's all gonna be all right. I'll tell you what, one of the smartest things a man ever told me was nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems at first. So just hang in there, it's gonna be all right.
And again, the power crews are working very hard to get the power back on to those more than 28,000 people without power. The traffic lights hopefully will be back up and operating properly. But again, the crews are out. They are working, doing the best they can to get your power back on and working. Reporting from St. Augustine, I'm Brittany Dion, First Coast News.
We're here in the Volano Beach Town Center where you can see the electricity is working. That's not the case anywhere north of here along A1A. That's where several homes are hanging just off the edge of sand dunes. Hurricane Matthew certainly left its mark on Volano Beach, as several beachside properties now sit dangerously close to an edge. Homes with previous beach erosion issues now have to contend with this.
It's hard to say if the foundation's gone. We'll see in the next few weeks what happens.
Luckily enough, we threw some sandbags up and we were good to go.
Nate Higgins was fortunate. He lives just off A1A.
I was actually surprised it kicked up over the higher part of that dune, just on the northern side of that walkway, but Other than that, I mean, it's pretty expected. I mean, we grew up on Volano, and heavy northeasterns usually get pretty bad here.
We're resilient. This community's been here since the 1920s, and we have a good county government.
Now residents who live at properties like this, with pieces of debris and wood scattered all over, certainly have their work cut out for them.
This storm is something we can survive and build on, and I think most of the properties will be good to go.
We're told that this Publix right behind me here in the town center should be back open by Sunday. That's the same case for the power. That should also be restored by tomorrow. In Volano Beach, Jason Rangela, First Coast News.
And we're going to continue to take a look at some of the damage around our area a little later, but I love this next story.
Yes.
It's a great follow-up story. We told you about this couple. They were planning on getting married this weekend, but they were a little concerned because of Hurricane Matthew.
Okay, this story's going to make you smile. You got to see how in just 48 hours they managed to pull off a wedding. Here's Stephen Dial.
Hurricane Matthew left down trees and power lines, and the couple that we introduced to you Thursday thought it would ruin their wedding. But with some last-minute help and some new friends, the wedding went on as planned.
Yeah, not my church wedding and all the details. I think the only thing that stayed was maybe decorations and dress, and everything else was different.
Katie and Scott got engaged in January, their wedding date October 8th. The problem they didn't see 9 months earlier, it would be on the same weekend a hurricane would sweep across northeast Florida.
I think we were defeated. It was
Defeated was the word.
We threw the towel in. We said, you know, it's not going to work.
Days before Hurricane Matthew made its way here, the couple had to do a lot of last-minute adjustments, like getting a new venue.
Actually, they reached out to us last night via Facebook. I got his phone number, called him up. I said, hey, let's make this happen.
A new venue means a new caterer.
And I got this call around 10:30 today, and I said, you know, why not? It's for love. And you know what Carrabba's does for the community, we were there anyways. I had to do it.
Luckily, they didn't have to find a new DJ. They just had to make sure the storm damage wouldn't stop him from coming.
Actually, I got a text message yesterday during the hurricane to see if I was still available and that I was still in town.
So what seemed like a doomed wedding a few days ago.
By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss your bride.
Became by far the most memorable weekend with friends new and old.
So many people stepped in and I mean, the thank you cards that we're going to have to write for this.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be honest, I think originally that was something that I thought, oh, that's something Katie's going to do. I think my hand is going to hurt after all the thank you letters we have to write.
And if you were wondering, I asked the couple what would they name their first child. They say Matthew is the first name that's not going to be on the list. On the south side, Stephen Dial, First Coast News.
Oh, what a story, Stephen.
Oh,
Congratulations. That did make us smile. We wish them the best.
Yes,
I'm
we do.
pulling it off just like that. Way to go. Well, Fernandina Beach residents were allowed to go back to their island today, lining up for hours before official word came down to finally open the Shave Bridge.
And you know, one restaurant owner, he says he lost a lot in this hurricane, but he is trying to reopen as soon as tomorrow. Clark Foraker has more.
Cars were lined up for hours and stretched for miles this way, all so they could come across the bridge to go onto Fernandina Beach. But confusion about when the bridge opened turned this into a parking lot.
Since 8:30 this morning.
So different than the rush to leave.
That's a doctor right there.
Hurricane Matthew.
They should have let him on.
Brought the drive home to a stop.
It's really nice. Look, there's the remnants of Matthew right there.
Waldemar Barrero and his son Taj learned one trick about traffic during the evacuation.
I took back roads. I didn't go Callahan, which I knew most people would go. I went up 17 to 208.
They learned a second trick on their way home.
Patience is part of this. That's the biggest part of hurricane.
Confusion about what time the Shave Bridge on Trumilla Island opened turned the road into a parking lot.
I had someone ask me, why don't you put up a grill?
They feel good about their house just a block off the ocean.
The person who lives below me, he decided to stay, and his family took off. And he kept on giving me updates until his phone went dead.
What it left behind to clear out so they can head home. A little silver lining to all this, police put the barricades just far enough down so folks could get to an ABC liquor store on A1A. They were open, taking cash only. In Fernandina Beach, I'm Clark Foraker, First Coast News.
The wind was the biggest factor here in Brunswick, causing damage throughout the town. For example, it ripped the side of this roof off of this Arby's. Hurricane Matthew came and went, but the people of Brunswick, Georgia will never forget its power.
And then the tree, of course, right there.
Ada Resta was in her home when the storm blew through.
But we stay in the hallway, and it was very, very scary. Very scary.
A tree in her front yard pummeled on top of her car, then one in the back fell on top of her house. She feared for her life.
I thought I was going to die, me and my granddaughter. I would never experience something like this in my life.
On St. Simon's Island, many trees now lay in the streets as well as power lines. The reason officials are still not letting residents back on the barrier island until they know for sure things are safe.
Damage, more so, a lot more so on the islands, of course, than on the mainland.
And back out here live, things, of course, could have been a whole lot worse. No fatalities were reported here in Glenn County. For now, we're live tonight in Brunswick. Jennifer Titus, First Coast News.
And that is good news, Jennifer. Thank you very much. And when we come back, we're going to tell you when students here on our First Coast are going to go back to school.
And if you're still wondering if you can get home tonight, we have the latest updates on bridge closures. We'll be right back.